Hey, let's talk about the people that pay the bills.
Yes, we would like to thank Game Up for sponsoring the podcast. They make a thirst-quenching adult beverage with a special blend of electrolytes. Comes in 4 great flavors: fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape.
That's right. It's a low-carb drink with just 110 calories. So enjoy yourself some Game Up. Enjoy the Combat Cast and enjoy some fights. Not the pay-per-view we were expecting, UFC 303, but you look at this top to bottom. This is a really good card. Is there any prelims you want to shout out?
Yeah, Andrei Arlovsky still fighting. Shout out to him. He's over 40 at this point, fighting on the fucking early prelims or something like that. Michelle Waterson Gomez versus Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson's been on a tear lately. She just broke into the top 15, so keep an eye out for her. Very fun fight, and I can't believe this fight's never happened before, but Cub Swanson versus Andre Feely is on the prelims. Great fight. And then Joe Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barrio. I would be shocked if somebody does not go to sleep in that fight. I think that's the featured bout on the prelims. So shout out to those. Let's get into this main card. Kicking off with a banger. Ian Machado Garry versus Michael Venom Page.
Yeah, I like this fight a lot. When I went to do my research for today's show, and I looked at this, I was like, whoa. Like, I really like this fight. I really like
Working fans.
The F-bomb, which was kind of funny because that's what I was actually thinking about this fight. But yeah, Ian Garry, I mean, he's not the most beloved guy in the UFC, I think, lately. And Michael Venom Page has had his share of haters as well. But man, stylistically, this is not an endearing term, but like point fighter. But these guys are great strikers that don't rush. And it's going to be an interesting matchup. Now, that could be a boring fight, right? Mm-hmm. It could be a defensive fight, but I'm very curious to see who actually gets the win here, because I feel like Michael Venom Page is definitely got to be the better striker given all his years' experience. But I feel like Ian Garry, despite being younger, is the more complete all-around fighter. So I'm going to go with Ian Garry because I don't think he'll be afraid to mix it up. I will say Michael Venom Page did show some takedown defense against Kevin Holland a little bit, but I feel like Ian Garry is a lot more complete than that, and he'll be ready. I'm going to say Ian Garry by submission, round 2.
Yeah, I believe in Ian's skills, but MVP made me a believer in that Kevin Holland fight. I'm really not confident either way. I'm excited for this fight, but I do agree with you. This could be a very quote-unquote technical fight where they do a lot of staring at one another and a lot of feints and trying to set traps and stuff, but maybe not so much action. Hopefully not, but it is possible. I think I'm going to pick MVP by decision. I don't think that Ian's shown enough ground skills where I feel like he could take and hold down Kevin Holland. If he does get him down, I mean, that's everyone's game plan against against MVP, is to take him down and hold him down. And, he's been dealing with that for decades. So I don't know if Ian Garry's at that level yet, but we're going to find out. And I'm excited for this fight for sure. But outside of some very impressive counterpunching from Ian Garry, I think MVP kind of pieces him up. And so I'll pick MVP by decision. I won't be upset if either guy wins, but my brain says MVP.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It's funny because I can definitely see that. But I just feel like, I don't know, I felt like MVP was always very well protected in Bellator too.
Yeah.
And I think he is good, but I don't feel like when I look down the roster of people he's beaten and who Ian Garry's beaten to, when you're looking at like Neil Magny, like I feel like it's almost comparable, but I just like the skill set better of Ian Garry. But I guess one thing I didn't say is I said I like to think Ian Garry is smarter and he will try to mix it up, but I could see him playing into the striking too as well, honestly. So
I mean, he's undefeated, right? So with that comes a certain confidence too, which can be an asset or a detriment depending on your ego. And we know that Ian Garry has an ego. So yeah, he might just rely on that striking. Although we've seen him getting a lot of clinches with guys and stuff up against the cage. And that would be a good route for him to go in this fight, but he's got to get his hands on him first. But let's move on. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson.
Chiasson is 9-3, 2 KOs, 3 subs, 4 decisions. She's 7-3 in the UFC. So if you look at her record, most of her career is literally fought in the UFC. She was the Ultimate Fighter winner at featherweight, a division that doesn't really exist anymore. So she's fought at a heavier weight before. Silva, 10-3, 1-1, 1 KO, 7 subs, 2 decisions. She's 5-3, 1-1 in UFC. So again, most of her career has been in the UFC too. So, these women have fought tough competition for most of their careers. I like Silva. I think I'm just going to go with Silva. There's a part of me that thinks Macy, if she can use maybe like a little bit of her size and stuff like that, maybe she'll be able to pull this off early. But I like Silva. I'll say Silva by decision.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm picking Silva too. I think she has a speed advantage, so I'm going to pick her by decision as well. Let's move on to a fight that got changed a bunch of times, but is now Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze.
Dolidze is 12-3, 7 KOs, 3 subs, 2 decisions, 6-3. And Anthony Smith, who for some reason, he's the butt of a lot of jokes here sometimes. People like to make fun of Anthony Smith, but 38-19, 20 KOs, 15 subs, only 3 decisions. This guy finishes people. He's had performance of the night 6 times. He's been fighting the night before. He's fought for the title. He's finished guys like Gustafsson. Like Anthony Smith, he's just coming off a victory. He's the epitome of a gatekeeper capable fighter. And this will be a great test to see where Roman's at. That being said, I like Roman. I think he's going to do enough to get the victory here. I'll say TKO late, round 3.
If Roman's going to win, I do think he gets a knockout because at this point, Anthony Smith has been in so many fights that, it wears on you. Even if, the majority of them are wins, you just take a lot of damage even in those wins. But I think stylistically, Anthony Smith matches up with him well. Like you were saying, not in a lot of decisions, and Dolidze has never been finished before. But I'm going to pick Anthony Smith by submission. I'll say round 2. Very exciting featherweight matchup. Brian T-City Ortega versus Diego Lopes.
Diego Lopes is 24-6, 10 KOs, 12 subs, 2 decisions. He's 3-1 in UFC. He lost his first UFC fight by decision, and he has had 3 finishes in a row, and he's looked excellent. Just actually his last fight, he looked like a monster. But Brian Ortega, 16-3-1, 3 KOs, 8 subs, 5 decisions. This is a guy that's a completely different animal, finishing, beating guys like Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson, being in the octagon just with guys like Volk and Max Holloway and the Koreans beating Korean Zombie, right? He's only lost to the best of the best. I think he's a different level. Although Diego has the hands, that it wouldn't surprise me if he can get a finish. I'm going to go Brian. I'm going to go T-City. I'm going to say that triangle choke plays a factor in this. And I'm going to maybe even go first round. Not because I think he's just so much better, because I think these guys are going to go after each other. Whereas like we talked about in that opener, I could see Garry and Venom Page kind of strikers, maybe doing a little point fighting, backing away. I don't see that with these two. I think these two are going to be aggressive, and I think we're going to get a finish here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fight of the night. Lopez looks like he might be champ at some point, but I'm with you. I got to pick T-City based off the people he's been in the cage with. I mean, he took Volkanovski to the absolute limit. Like you were saying, he's been in there with his last few fights have been Yair, Max, Volkanovski, just in there with the top of the top. So I'm with you. I think he gets a sub. I think it's going to go later. I think we're going to see a bit of a war, and T-City gets a sub in round 3. He also has a great chin on him too. We saw what Max did to him. He's taken a lot of damage, but he has an excellent chin, and he's taken some time off before his most recent Yair fight. So
I could see him getting knocked down. I have a hard time seeing him get knocked out.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. He could get put down, but does that put him in a more advantageous spot in reality? Sure. So
it could.
The new main event, Alex Perreira versus Jiri Prochazka.
Prochazka, this samurai, he's 34-1, 26 KOs, 3 subs, 1 decision. He's the former light heavyweight champion. He's had fight of the night twice, performance of the night 3 times. Alex Perreira, 10-2, 8 KOs, 2 decisions, 9-1 in the UFC. He's already a 2-weight champion, former middleweight
Hall of Famer,
light heavyweight champion. He has a win over Prochazka. He's finished him before, but that was an exciting fight back and forth. And I feel like anybody could win this fight because the way Jiri likes to fight, it kind of plays into Perreira a little bit. But Jiri does have enough tools to get the finish. When I think of it's weird. Sometimes you just think of destiny and how you just see things playing out in your head. And I have multiple ways I see this playing out in my head. One is Prochazka wins. and this is going to set up a trilogy, and we're going to have a fight. Other is Perreira catches him again, and then they're going to hope Israel Adesanya beats DDP, and then we're going to do middleweight versus light heavyweight champion, and that's going to be a big fight, possibly at the end of the year or the guard, and so maybe even the spear. Like there's going to be possibly a big fight down the road. Really hard for me to predict this one. I'm going back and forth a lot, but I'm going to go Prochazka. I think Prochazka is going to study film. He's going to look at mistakes he's made, and he's going to figure it out, and he's going to get the job done this time. And I'll just go, because I don't think these two are capable of going decision. I'll go TKO round 3.
I'm kind of rooting for Jiri here because I think he's just a fun fighter. I'm not that Alex isn't, but I like Jiri. But I think Alex knows how to deal with the unorthodox style at this point that Jiri possesses. And I think if anyone's studying tape and making adjustments, it's going to be Alex. I think Yuri's more on the fly, intuition, more creativity. He's like training with Shaolin monks and shit. Alex is doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to pick Alex. I agree with you. Don't think that this fight is capable of going to decision. So I'll pick Alex by round 3 TKO.
Can I just tell you something funny? Is I like both these fighters too, but I'm more leaning towards I want Alex to win, but I'm picking Prochazka. You're leaning towards him when you're picking Alex, so that's kind of funny. We'll see what happens. I think this is going to be anybody's fight, and there's a lot of different things that could happen here.
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.